Yeah. Hello? It's working. No, okay. Let's see. Who's this? In 8 minutes. Okay. It's so bind. How to for fracture since I have one for I should probably write this down. Yeah. I really don't want to make line episode a map and I forget and then like have like 50 of them. But then so Ascent do not have one. Bind do not. I know for Haven. And done. Icebox is done, and that's it. Rip. So I only play, cheats, so I can just keep on doing it without like having to wait 50 years for like timer to go and blah blah blah.
No one can hold that breath forever.
Sheesh.
I knew some of them. The people here. Good scientists. My ultimate is ready.
I'm gonna put on a podcast because
What is Outplay?
So this isn't an actual episode out of time, but it's real close. This episode should be released just before the iPhone event. So by the time most people have listened to this, but we're doing it now a little earlier than we would normally because I'm going to be traveling and I got a lot going on in September. So we're trying to get this done.
I don't understand how this makes it an episode out of time at all.
It doesn't.
okay.
I don't agree. I feel like this is more like, oh, there's just a bunch of stuff that's going to happen, but that's not an episode out of time. That's not even an episode out of time adjacent. You're always talking about things that are going to happen in the future. That doesn't make that an episode out of time.
I always feel like episodes out of time are made more out of timing based on how dated they are, which is something we don't really talk about. That's kind of how I am. So, like, if we were releasing this episode a week later, it would be an episode of time. Because so much would have changed at that point. Things we'd normally talk about, like new iPhones, new Apple Watches, whatever. I think it would qualify.
Wait, I feel like I'm in crazy town here. Like, don't episodes out of time we normally try to pick something that isn't time sensitive? That's why it can be an episode out of time. It's like, oh, we're going to record this thing, and then we'll release it 2 months from now.
But then we would never reference that it was an episode of time. We reference that they're episodes out of time because of the fact that it's obvious that time would have passed because there's something that we would have otherwise spoken about, or are worried that something could have happened that would date the episode in a way that was weird. So we say this is an episode out of time.
I don't know.
That's why we do it.
Oh, okay. I feel like I've fallen through some kind of time vortex, and I have no idea how this works anymore.
Because, like, if we did a book, right, and just
Okay.
did a whole episode about a book, we could record and release that whenever, and that wouldn't be an episode at a time, because it's just about the book. But if we're doing an otherwise normal episode, where we just talk about topics, things that we want to discuss, if there's like a long time between recording and releasing, then it becomes an episode at a time. Because if we leave it for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, which we do sometimes, anything could happen that would otherwise date the show. And typically this happens around, I think the last couple, if my memory serves, has been because there's going to be some kind of Apple event or whatever that we would otherwise talk about, but we can't talk about it because it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. I feel like the only thing that is making this, even remotely, an episode out of time or episode out of time adjacent is this conversation right now.
September is a huge time
Mm-hmm.
for a bunch of reasons. It's busy time, work-wise, so we got new iPhones coming. iOS comes out, all that kind of stuff, so busy time. But around these parts, it's especially busy because we turn our attention to raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Because September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. For the 4th consecutive year, the Relay FM community is rallying together again to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which is very simple: finding cures, saving children. This year, St. Jude is actually celebrating its 60th anniversary. Since opening its doors in 1962, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital has grown in size and capabilities for one special reason. They believe that children deserve the same chance at survival. Treatments developed at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital have helped increase the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% in the 60 years that it's been around. While these tremendous strides have been made, 1 in 5 children diagnosed in the US will not survive. And elderly numbers are shockingly reversed, with 4 in 5 children
So if it's a bit too far,
cancer. Limited access to high-quality, affordable medicines and the financial burden of research and care
higher.
are hallmarks of the childhood cancer challenge that many developing countries face. And this is how it is across the globe. And this is the kind of stuff that St. Jude is changing. St. Jude is a hospital in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very important link to us here at Relay FM. You know, if you're not aware, you wonder why do they raise money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital every year. My co-founder Stephen Hackett lives in Memphis, was lucky to live in Memphis as his eldest son was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Further.
Very, very young.
Further back.
St. Jude took him as a patient, saved his life. And now a incredible young man who I love dearly.
Oh no. Higher. Higher. Bruh.
So that is our
That is bozo.
But the more time we have spent and learnt about St. Jude,
Mess.
I have had to interact with doctors and patients and families who just show how special a place this is. It is a very unique institution in America because of the way they work, and that families do not pay for the treatment. And St. Jude also provides food and housing for patient families so they can focus on the health of their child. But St. Jude was also a research institution, and they share what they learn with the world. For example, recently in 2021, they did some medical trials that saw a 20-point improvement in survival rates for high-risk neuroblastoma, which is the second most common solid tumor in children. They produced this antibody at the campus of St. Jude and would then share this knowledge
Higher?
with the world.
Do I really have to aim higher?
Attention to raising money,
That's kinda high already, no cap.
primarily because they want to save the lives of children everywhere. Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity for us to come together in the fight against childhood cancer because together we can make a big impact. And this year you're able to support the
Yeah.
St. Jude campaign in multiple ways. So as always, we
Yeah.
invite donation. Donors who make an individual gift of $60 or more will receive a digital bundle, including a wallpaper and a macOS screensaver pack, which is just for people that donate. If you donate $100 or more, you get this, plus some special stickers that we're just giving to people as a thank you for donating. If your employer offers a program, so if you donate, check with your employer if they do matching gifts. If they do, there's a form at stjude.org/relay that can be credited to our campaign. If you work for a big company, it's very likely that they do charity matching. And
Whoa.
this year, if you want to get more hands-on, you can now start your own fundraising campaign to help us reach our goals while
Yeah,
also
what?
providing exclusive Relay FM merchandise. If you sign up to fundraise and you raise $1 or more, you'll get an exclusive St. Jude limited edition of a Relay FM challenge coin. If you raise $250 or more, you will get a very weird and unique desk mat which features the cartoon heads of me and Steven. It's very strange, but it's great. If you may have seen last year that I covered my desk in stickers of Stephen's face. We are now, so we kind of, St. Jude, who help us plan these events, results. Then maybe
Viewers, which is sort of different from, oh, you just have a folder. And often they're putting like, oh, these are files that are not really meant for the user to access. It's like a bunch of stuff that the app just keeps for itself.
Well, some apps keep all of the projects in there.
Yeah. But like sometimes the apps are just using it for themselves. Sometimes it's, oh, hey, you can actually put files in this. And so this exists at the root level of iCloud Drive. And in my head, precisely because of my long experience with Apple and the way iCloud Drive used to work, I always filed those in my head as like, oh, these are like library folders. They're not really here for the user. You just interact with them entirely through the app.
Yeah.
And I have a separate folder, which is acting like basically Dropbox. It was like Gray's iCloud stuff, and this just has a bunch of folders in there. And I had artificially in my head.
About it's like Gray's iCloud stuff. Keep out, top secret.
Yeah, exactly.
No boys allowed.
It's gross, I think was the sign. But good old Calvin and Hobbes. But so anyway, like I had divided in my head this totally artificial line, which I realized through the conversation on Reddit. So again, very helpful to everybody who was leaving comments. It's like, wait a minute. I think I can just dig into this Obsidian iCloud folder where I'm syncing stuff, and can I just share a single subfolder of this with my assistant? And it turns out, yes, I can. So I can go into there and just share a folder with her. Now, we currently run into one more technical problem, which I was literally checking in as we were putting the show notes together this morning. I'm like, what's the current status of us trying to figure this out? So the current limitation that we don't know if it's technical or not is my assistant will be doing this work on a Windows machine. Why the sharp intake of breath there?
I would not trust that at all.
Okay, so here's the fun we've been having, because I literally haven't had
No way! Second time!
computer in greater than a decade.
That really worked already.
We were going through
I mean, I feel like I won't be able to hear it.
Apple makes a
It
program that they
was
call
there.
for Windows. Which,
That.
and now this is
That.
where we get into it. I'm trying to help my assistant support on her Windows machine, upon which
That was second try.
I'm a blind person.
I don't even think this is good since I won't be able to hear the diffuse.
This box goes over there. I don't have any idea. She sent me screenshots of like, I get a screenshot of just like, oh, here's what I'm looking at. I'm like, I know what I'm looking at.
Wait, what?
File browser? Like, what is this? I have no
What
idea.
is this?
So she is able to access the files on her Windows computer. But what we haven't been able to figure out is there doesn't seem any way for her to edit them in place. Like, she has to make a copy. She can edit the copy, then delete the original and rename the copy the same as the original.
I don't like that at all.
I know, right? So I'm not exactly sure what the current state of this project is, but it does turn out, yes, in theory, you can share subfolders of any iCloud folder, even those weird app ones, which I just didn't think was the case, with another user, even if they're on Windows.
So my question is, now look, I'm not trying to make anyone change platform, right? How impossible would it be for your assistant to do this with?
So we have also been exploring iPad as an option.
I think that that's the way to go. I would tell you right now, do not trust the Windows tool.
No, you don't trust it?
I just don't. Okay, so iCloud file sharing has been a problem on the Mac in the past, right? Like it has suffered from unreliability, which is like, this is one of those things for me. Do you remember for a really long time, nobody trusted photo syncing? Like none of us trusted photo syncing, but over time, we learned to trust it. I feel
Would I rather go under or over the two?
because even things like shared iCloud folders took over a year to be, like, it was supposed to be in a version of iOS and just never showed up.
Yeah.
And I think
Wait,
it's
what?
just recently started to actually work. So I'm not even convinced that this is something that had enough long-term user testing on.
What if I use it for something mission critical? Right, what do you-
Yeah, that's a good point.
what do you-
There surely is not an issue. So I wouldn't trust this with the Windows tool because I don't know, man. So like, this was, I'm just looking it up now, right? This was supposed to come out with macOS Catalina and it got delayed on the Mac for a long time, like file sharing. The folder sharing, actually. I don't know if you're doing folder sharing or file sharing here.
It's folder sharing. It has to be folder sharing.
This is a relatively new thing. I wouldn't feel comfortable. My biggest issue is that if she is actually unable to just edit in place, that's... I just can't... I just only imagine that's going to cause some kind of problem.
Yeah.
Like some kind of syncing issue with Obsidian. Like Obsidian's going to be looking for a file that doesn't exist.
I also do have that flag in my head. It's like, okay, this is workable, but this also feels like the exact kind of thing that can confuse syncing very easily.
You're going to get some kind of conflict somewhere.
Yeah, someone made a copy, edited the copy, deleted the original, renamed the original to be the copy. Like, that feels great if everyone's computer is online at the same time while it's happening, but that feels like it could be real bad if someone's computer is offline and wakes up with a different version of the file. And then what happens here?
I have in the past noticed iCloud Drive syncs not as quickly as Dropbox.
Yeah, iCloud Drive, I feel very much the same way as you, where when it first came out, I just didn't trust it at all. For me as an individual user, I think it's basically rock solid now. Like, I haven't had any problems with it.
Yeah, I use it for I still use Dropbox, but like I don't worry about using iCloud Drive for my own stuff anymore. Like if an app uses it or whatever, like I use it. Okay, like I'll have some stuff in here. That's totally fine. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it as well. But it does still have this thing of iCloud Drive is never in a rush to synchronize anything. I don't know. It always feels like iCloud Drive just spends a lot of time in a cafe, sipping tea, looking out the window, like reading the newspaper. And like it'll do its job, but maybe not right now. You know, it'll do it when it's convenient.
And that's fine if I can tell it sync now like I can with Dropbox.
Yes, exactly.
But you can't. You have no control over iCloud Drive. It will just get to it when it's ready. Like if I think something's stuck with Dropbox, I can pause and unpause it, and it will start going. Or I can look in the little Dropbox app, and it will show me what's syncing.
Yes.
iCloud Drive. Sometimes there's a little spinner, right, or like a little progress bar, but that's all you get. And like,
what's particularly delightful right now is, of course, we're recording this. I'm on the writing computer, which is used for podcasting as well.
Naturally.
And whenever we do that, I have a little shortcut that I run that turns off Dropbox for 4 hours, and then it will turn Dropbox back on after we're done recording. So you don't want Dropbox spinning and eating up all the internet while that's happening.
Some people don't have a problem with this. My Dropbox is currently uploading this conversation.
We're all very impressed with super fast internet connection. Fantastic for you.
We had a conversation beforehand where Gray was telling me about his internet woes, which is why I am listening.
Yes. So it is vital for all podcasters to minimize everything that's using the internet while you're doing something that's going to be real time. For all podcasters. But so in this conversation, of course, while we're discussing iCloud Drive, I opened up my iCloud Drive for the Obsidian thing, and even right now on the bottom there's a little message which says iCloud Drive is currently downloading 15 items, 5 gigabytes out of 12 gigabytes. And it's like, what are you doing, iCloud Drive? I have no idea what that could even possibly be, and it's extra funny to me because we're recording the show. I have just come back from a 2-day trip where I didn't bring any devices other than my phone. Like, I didn't really take any pictures. This is the first time I'm using any of the computers. Also, all the computers have been on the entire time I was gone, and it's like, hey, this is what gives iCloud Drive that feeling of like, oh, it's got other stuff to do, and oh, iCloud Drive, I guess, was on vacation over the past couple of days. And right now, while we're recording a podcast, it's decided to download 10 items. Like 11.35 gigabytes worth of stuff. Like right now it's going to download. I don't have any problem with it because it does work. It says everything is there. But there is a little bit of like, what you doing, buddy? Where were you? What 12 gigabytes of stuff do you have to sync when I literally haven't touched any of my devices other than my phone for the past 2 days? It's so weird.
Well, I mean, maybe it's downloading a bunch of files from someone's Windows PC that have been accidentally added in.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also where I'd love to see what it's actually downloading so I could go like, oh, it's downloading, you know, System 32 folder. Like, okay, well then at least I can debug that and I can have some idea of what's going on. So I don't really know quite where we are in this technical project. I do think the next step is to try to figure out if there is a way to do it on the iPad. I wasn't quite sure how to debug that, but it does just occur to me. I can try to do this as a test with my wife's iPad, so I can actually just have a device in front of me that isn't mine and see, okay, can I make it work on my wife's iPad? And then I have a prayer of doing tech support over the phone on how to get that to work for somebody else.
My recommendation is if you're going to go down this route and it does work, you should keep it to Apple platforms.
Yeah, no, that would be ideal.
You know, one, if there's an issue, you can't debug it. But two, it's just, you know, if it's going to be supported well anywhere, this is the best way. I guarantee you, no matter how many people are working on it, and I'm sure there are really smart people working on it, it's just Windows software that you're going to get for iPad OS.
Let's see, I'm going to see, I'm going to have Spike, I guess.
For
If
sure.
I can play
That's
Linux.
just naturally the way.
If I can get any Linux to work. I don't even care if
Windows is
it's
great.
already made.
It just can't ever be.
I have a lot of times.
It would be insane.
I guess.
You just couldn't possibly.
I mean, especially because the open in place thing is just what's freaking me out. Like,
Yes. No. There's also.
Farther? Okay.
As a long-time power user, that's a real red flag for like. I don't like this at all.
because there was a time
Got the,
when that was just what iCloud Drive did. Like, you could not open
but
files.
that one I lined up.
Like, and it was one of the things I didn't like about it. Like, every time I opened it on another machine, it would make a duplicate. And it's just like, this isn't what I want. Or like, if an app
That looks too far.
used something in another app's folder, there was just no way to access those documents.
Yeah.
Right? You would have to copy them. But now you don't need to do any of that because those app folders are now just treated as folders inside of the whole thing that you're able to freely access. So it works fine. But if it's still doing that kind of stuff on Windows, I don't think it's but I will say, if you can get this to work better, it will be better for you than Git. I'm almost convinced of that.
Git is not an option. You know, now I know way more about Git than I ever did before. I still feel like, oh no, this is just too much. But yes, I do want to thank everyone for technical support. I want to anti-thank Mike for bringing this up at the end of the show because it really has gotten under my skin of I would like to have a system that is much better for doing hand annotations on script. I really do feel like that's a critical part of the workflow that is not where it should be.
I don't know why I'm getting anti-thanked then.
You're getting anti-thank because I had brushed this to the corner of my mind and I just was mostly able to not think about
I'm
it.
just here
and
trying to make your work better, you know? And
Just-
I'm
I
getting
know.
anti-thanked for
But
it.
it's super annoying. Like I didn't have a problem before and now I have a problem.
Right.
So the script process may have been slightly suboptimal, but I was able to deal with it. And now I feel like, oh great, I have this really annoying technical problem to try to solve with a bunch of tools that I now want to work with together to make this happen. So
I actually think that what you just said then is just a pretty good summary of our show and working life together in general.
oh yeah.
I didn't have a problem, now I have a problem. I feel like that sums everything up really nicely. This episode is brought to you by Fitbod. Between balancing all of the things that you have going on in your life, whether it's your social life, your work life, your family life, and everything in between, this can make it hard to make fitness a priority. Especially if it's not working for you. Maybe you've been trying to do something and you're not really feeling it. Real just like breakdown about email a while ago on the show. Because I was just fed up with the amount of absolute I get in my email inbox every day, and I know where it's coming from. It's like people getting my email address or Relay FM email addresses from podcast RSS feeds. and they just get added to mailing distribution lists, and I get spam, endless spam about, hey, do you want this cryptocurrency expert on your podcast? Right? Like, that's just what I get all day, every day. And now Apple is saying no longer will we be requiring this, because they've now, like, in the intervening time, Apple now has a whole system for submitting podcasts to Apple Podcasts called Podcast Connect, which is like, basically it's based, I think, on what the App Store Connect thing is, where you like
I got it for up. Oh my goodness.
and all that kind of stuff about your show.
Oh my
They've
goodness.
now made it that, like, basically that's what they care about, if you have an account on Podcast Connect, and you can have multiple users and all that kind of stuff. And so that's just kind of how a contact email address for Apple is given, and that no longer needs to be confirmed in the RSS feed. I will be intrigued to see, I haven't actually looked at this, like, how are they getting ownership claim of feeds? Because I think that was part of it, right? That, like, and this is something that a lot of platforms have used, and it's going to be interesting to see how this changes. That, like, you submit an RSS feed, and then to a platform, the platform looks for the email address in the feed, then contacts that email address with a code, which you then validate as, like, I own this feed. So I haven't actually looked into that. I'm sure that like, just like a thought that popped into my mind right now, but whatever. I'm sure this is. But the reason this is good for me is we will now be able to remove email addresses, hopefully, from our RSS feeds, which will stop some of the emails that I get. Because I'm sure I'm already on a bunch of lists, so like I know I'm going to get it forever, but there will be a selection of new lists that my email address won't be on, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, you can kind of stop the future spread of this is the main thing.
Like, eventually, I might be able to weed out a lot of the spam, right? And it's just not new spam that's coming. And there'll still be some, but it'll be less, like, and over time, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear about that as well. I was going to talk about this either on State of the Apps or on the Theme episode, but I might as well mention here, just so, like, so people can truly understand the scale of this issue. You have to have your email address in a
Over here?
like this with Apple.
Awesome.
Push over the past few months to try to clear up my email and try to get back on top of the system for a bunch of reasons.
Oh, let's go.
In the past 3 months, I made a note when I started so that I could see where this was.
An easily repeatable question.
100,000 emails. And it's like a huge portion of that is obviously coming from the fact that, like, my email address has been in this.
Oh, I added jump. Oops.
Like, accessible, and just get, like Mike said,
Oh.
so many weird offers, and just like this whole level of emails where they're directed at you but they're not personal to you. It's just monstrous to try to deal with, to actually find the useful emails under this.
Easily repeatable? Don't think so.
Like, I think when people are like, oh, I just have largely ignored my email for huge amounts of time, people are like, how can you do that? It's like, well, it's just because the signal to noise ratio is so awful. The majority of that wasn't straight up spam. Like, my little, like, how many messages do you think have thing doesn't track the spam messages. That's like the stuff that is deleted. It's all this weird semi-spam stuff that comes through this kind of thing. So I'm very happy to hear about that too.
2 different ones for top, none for bottom. Bruh.
This is one of those things that talking about the software. We will be able to make that change for Relay FM shows because we control our feeds. But then it's up to other podcast platforms to also decide that they want to make that change.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Please.
They will, and it will make
No.
people.
Wait.
While we're talking about big companies and podcasting initiatives, some time ago we spoke about the idea of YouTube getting into podcasting as like a thing that we were just wondering, like, what is this sleeping giant going to do? And I don't know if they've actually done anything, but there's been a bit of a hubbub in the podcasting community about the fact that YouTube now has a dedicated page, which is youtube.com/podcast. If you're in America currently, if you're in the USA, it shows you a page where they have curated a bunch of podcasts and made some playlists for them. I used a VPN and took a screenshot of this page at some point, which I've put in the notes for you and I've put in the notes for other people. It's not really much of anything right now.
Okay.
It's like, here are a bunch of popular podcast creators, and here are a bunch of playlists of different types, and there you go. And so, like, they're kind of curating podcasts, which I'm not really sure why they feel the need to do this, what seems manual curation. Kind of seems antithetical to what YouTube is, but it definitely feels like there is manual curation going on here, because I have not known unless you have a way to tell YouTube, hey, we're a podcast, right?
So here's what I wonder about this. So when we talked about it last time, I'm really big on like, if I was in charge of YouTube, I think podcasts is a big growth area for them. I think there's a lot that they can do here. I genuinely really want YouTube to get into the podcasting area, like both as a producer and also as a listener, because I think they can really help solve the discovery problem, which is part of what podcasts are the worst at now. Like,
See, I don't know if I agree with you.
okay, why don't you agree with me?
Because people are already doing it. YouTube don't need to have a hand in this at all.
What do you mean?
People are already putting video versions of their podcasts, or like people are already treating like, here's a bunch of people in a room, we have microphones, we have cameras, this is now a podcast that's on YouTube, right?
Right, yeah.
This is already happening, and the YouTube algorithm is serving this content to people. YouTube does not need to have a podcasting initiative of any kind for this to happen on its own. So, like, I would prefer them to do nothing, because my concern is, if they try and turn their hand to this, it's going to upset a bunch of stuff.
What are you worried about getting upset?
It's another big platform saying they do podcasts when it's... Okay, I'm getting a bit tired of the debate of like, a podcast is only a podcast if it's in an RSS feed. I've said this a bunch of times, but I feel like now it's just been repeated too many times. Right? It's just like, whatever. But a YouTube video is not a podcast. It just isn't. Like, if I can't get it in a podcast app, it's not a podcast. It's just, here is a long YouTube video. And my concern is, like Spotify, YouTube will be encouraging people to just publish their stuff on their platform. That's the part that bugs me, right? The RSS thing, whatever, but a podcast should be available wherever you get your podcasts. That's my kind of conceit on it. Like, the particulars about exactly how, I don't care about. But I do believe this is a type of content which is best served when people can get it wherever they want to get it. Now, that could mean that, like, you do what we do. We have a podcast, we also publish on YouTube, right? That I'm cool with. And if YouTube stays out of this space, this keeps happening, right? People maybe make it their YouTube video, and then they release the audio, right? My concern is if YouTube keeps pushing in, they're going to go, no. Don't do that.
No. Lineups.
Just keep it on our platform.
Okay, so you're worried they're going to provide financial incentives.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't someone just also publish it as an RSS feed?
They're going to do what Spotify's doing. Because, like, my point is, like, I think people say, like, Mike, you're saying people should stop making one argument, but it's the same argument. I don't think that it's the same thing. Like, participate in what are considered closed platforms. Like, you can get all of our podcasts on Spotify. But that's because we're not entering any particular deal with them. They're just another destination for us to publish our shows, right? But if Spotify said to us, like, if you want to put your stuff here, we're the only place that you can publish it, we're like, no, I don't want to do that. Because now we're not participating in the open ecosystem. And so if YouTube just continue doing what they're doing right now, people can choose to do whatever they want, right? They can put their video version on YouTube, they can put their audio, and maybe their video on Spotify, they can put their audio wherever they want.
Oh my goodness.
Apple Podcasts, it can go into every single other third-party podcast app. My concern is if they're like, hey, we have a podcasting initiative, hey, Logan Paul, here's $50 million. Do a podcast with us. You know what? That's the thing I don't want to happen.
across a couple of channels that even call what they're doing a podcast, and then I discover there is literally no place to watch it other than YouTube.
And that's not a podcast to me.
Right, yeah.
Now it's just a YouTube show, which is great. Like, go for it. If you're not on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, like, you're not doing it, right? It's not a podcast anymore. But, you know.
What's particularly weird about that is I found a couple of examples that are just audio only, too. They're not even doing the, we have cameras, and we have that fancy whatever Rode microphone, or the Shure SMB, or whatever the heck it is. They're not even doing that. It is just, it's like what we do with Cortex. It is just audio only. And then I've gone to adding it to Overcast. And it's like, oh, there's no RSS feed at all. And that I always think is very interesting. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, why are you just publishing the audio to YouTube?
It seems very strange to me. So, okay, I think that is a fair feeling. I think you're not wrong there. I guess I feel like YouTube is less bad because I don't know, maybe it's wrong. It just feels much better than something like a Spotify.
Sounds like Stockholm Syndrome.
What I was just trying to think here is like, can I actually come up with an actual reason why? And that is leaping into my head.
YouTube just works for you.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, to you, YouTube's fine because you use it and understand it.
Yes.
And you benefit from it. You understand how to be successful with it in a way that I think a lot of people don't. And so, to me, YouTube is really nerve-wracking because I've built an audience however I've built it, whatever the way is. I don't know how it's happened, but it's happened over time, right? I don't think I would have been able to do that the same way with YouTube, deciding what show to pick. Like, we talk about this a lot, right? The subscriber and the algorithm. And I think that my content and the shows that I make have succeeded based on the fact that people made a choice and then they kept tuning in because there was a new episode in their list. And I feel like if it was YouTube, I don't think that would happen. And also, one of the things I love about podcasting is the barrier to entry is low. You just need a microphone and Zoom or Skype or whatever, right? And you can go for it. With YouTube, that barrier to entry is so much higher.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you put video into it, to get something that looks professional, so much more time. Sounds professional. You really don't have to do a lot. It sounds good. With YouTube, it's now a whole different kettle of fish. Because I dug through this page. As far as I could see, every podcast that is featured has a video component. It's not like what we do.
So one of the reasons why I think this has struck me as an interesting project that I wonder if YouTube is doing is that YouTube does have a feature which I don't think it's accessible to all channels. Like, I think we can't do it on Cortex. I think I remember looking for it once. It may just be in beta. But they have a way as a creator where you can, they don't say like mark as podcast, but I feel like this is functionally what they're doing. They're asking if the video that you have uploaded is like an audio only experience, or if it is something that is a listenable experience. I forget exactly what their language is. But what they're asking for there, and I've seen it on the YouTube app for stuff that is basically like listening to it, YouTube will change the interface to act like audio controls.
It's like them YouTube Music. They show the YouTube Music controls, which is a big pause and skip buttons.
Yes. And so that's the thing that has seemed to me interesting. And like, I wonder, looking at this page,
I don't think they want to do that.
You don't think that's what they're up to?
No, I think they want people to make video podcasts. I don't think they want audio podcasts.
Oh, but see, Mike, I want them to want audio podcasts.
But I don't think that they do. I really don't. I think that YouTube know video, and so they just want video. And just poking around this page,
it's a very strange page.
it seems incredibly cool. Because look, I'm not trying to be that guy. There are shows that have significantly smaller audiences than even we do on YouTube that were included in this. And they were included in it, I believe, because they make video shows, and we don't.
Right, okay.
So I don't want podcasting to become a video medium. As a consumer, I watch lots of podcasts on YouTube. But I don't want that to be the only way that this content is created. because I think it would stop a lot of great shows from being made.
When I heard this announcement, I was looking around to try to see this podcast page and what it was, and I couldn't find it. And so now, obviously, that's why it's only in the US. Can't see it over here. And so I just have this screenshot of yours to go by. And it is a strange selection of things. The one that particularly strikes me is the one at the very top, which is the nightly news broadcast.
Okay, there we go. I think I got it.
Is that a
Tasted a little bit of the pork.
Huh?
I tasted a little bit of the pork.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty good.
It's good?
Want some? Want to try one?
the thing that I would be thinking
Sure.
if I was in charge of YouTube podcasts.
Put that out there.
This is more like a watch time initiative. How can we min-max content that is really long but also still has visual components and highlight those as things for people to watch? I don't know. Yeah, I have to say that the more I look at this screenshot, the less I like it.
So I'm not.
That's the correct area, right? I really hope so.
I like
Okay, good. It will hit heaven.
whatever platform we want and make
That's not the one, yeah.
whoever wants.
And then if I have that there,
My worry
I'll
is
prevent them from doing this unless they're here, but then they get
getting that content down.
volleyed.
Because I
Yeah, they can't see and I'll be able to peek in.
bad for the creators, even though they make a bunch of money. Not all of them do.
Yeah. It's bad for the creators collectively.
Yes.
And it can
Look
be-
at all these ciphers.
Like especially individual creators, whatever they just made their money, like make your money, right?
So,
And I don't begrudge creators.
what was that called? Oh, fracture.
But what I don't like is when there are like companies that decide they're going to do this.
Okay, fracture. I probably should get balls for fracture, if I'm totally honest.
Like if
Pearl, I don't want to do Pearl. Actually, Pearl might be easy. Only on one site.
decides they're going to put all their content on Spotify
I only know B site,
with the amount of people that can be listened to
B site volleys.
is growing all the time. I will say. Recently, I've been tracking kind of our show. It's like 15% of our audience now listen to the show on Spotify.
I'm genuinely shocked by the
Yeah.
number. I cannot believe it's that big.
Mhm.
I would have said 3%. I feel like would have
Yeah.
been my first pass at that.
No, it's approaching and in some cases passes what we do on YouTube now. And so, like, I don't have a problem with either. But if we were only on Spotify, well, now we've potentially taken 85% of our audience away.
Wait.
So
Huh?
these are the things
Okay.
that concern me for people that work in the industry. Like, but now if you work for a large publisher, they've decided to go all in on one platform. If you want to now go and start something on your own one day, you've restricted the amount of people that could possibly know about you for you to now go make that move, So little things like that bother me. And so I don't want another big company to do this. And the problem I have is YouTube is, I think, the company that could have the biggest negative impact because of their size and scale.
And you think that negative impact would be directly through exclusives?
Yeah. They have a lot of money and could write a lot of checks if they wanted to. They don't even need to pay you cash or just change your rev share.
Yeah, that is very
Right.
true.
Say like, we can make you a ton of money over time if you just publish here. So stuff like that, it's just like, I don't like the thought of that, really.
Well, you may be less happy about this project.
Oh, dude, let's go. Smoke car.
Right, but I would like to discover new podcasts, and I think YouTube could be one. So do I.
But it also is like counter to what YouTube doesn't really recommend a channel to you.
Yeah,
It wants to recommend one video. So is it really going to help?
that is also a good point. Even the very top here is like popular episode, and we can get into this like platonic question of what is a podcast, but having individual popular episodes feels like that does not fit the platonic idea of what podcasts are.
It's like if YouTube will recommend an episode of a podcast to me now because there's some kind of drama surrounding it. And then I might go, ooh, lovely. And I watch 20 minutes of that podcast. And that's the end of anything useful for anybody. Like, I have not decided I want to subscribe to that podcast. People got a big breakout hit. Now they think their podcast's successful, but it's not changed.
Yeah, and a lot of podcasts, like the very experience depends so much on the fact that you have already listened to other episodes, or like you know the hosts.
Yep.
That also feels like a fundamental thing of like what are podcasts as opposed to videos. Is like, oh, I make a video and it is about a topic, and the topic is the primary focus of the video. Like a video is about a thing.
There are podcasts that are like that, but there are far fewer than
Yeah. But this is why, like, I'm just trying to think about general characteristics. Oh, what makes a general characteristic of a podcast? And one of those general characteristics is I am interested in the host's take on this thing because I have heard the host talk about other things.
Yeah.
So, like, I am curious about the opinion of this person who I have some sense of who they are through long experience, which is the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. This is a video about a thing, and you don't need any previous experience with the thing because you're watching a video about the thing. You don't need to know anything about the person who's talking about it. It's just, this is the topic.
In typical YouTube parlance, podcasts are kind of more like vlogs in that way. Like
Yeah.
vlog channels, you have to like just start and understand that you're not going to get a lot of context for a while until you've maybe gone back and watched more videos to get more context about this person and why are they doing these things right now. It's kind of like podcasting, right? Like you could jump into an episode, you could pick it up and start listening, and you'll get there eventually, but it might help to go back and listen to more of it. Maybe all of it, maybe just a big chunk of it. It helps, right? But like that's one of the great things about podcasts, I think, is like once you find a new one, there's so much stuff to go back and listen to if you enjoy it. But it makes it harder to just jump in than like a typical YouTube video about runway numbers or like if there was like a 6-part podcast series about runway numbers that included follow up from the previous one, it's like not as easy to jump into. So I don't know if the medium ultimately is really that good for YouTube to really push on. It's like this is where podcasts should be, and then recommend them to people of like, hey, here's a popular episode. You're just like, so? Like I never see like if I get because I get
too far. That.
And I'm sure I get recommended, hey, here's a 2-hour podcast from these people you don't know. Like why? Why would I listen to that? But sometimes it's like, here's a creator you're already following, and this is their podcast channel, and they're now talking about this thing. Are you interested? And some people go, yeah, which is which is honestly like the main reason the Cortex YouTube channel exists, right? Because sometimes we talk about things in your videos, and then people get suggested them, and they're like, oh, I'd like to know more about that, and then they go and listen to the Cortex episode about whatever video.
Right there.
I don't know if like that video just looks old to someone.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're also just pointing out something that, for my own like quote podcasting on YouTube, that is also true.
No.
My behavior actually expresses interest in the guest and total lack of interest in the guest. So YouTube will recommend me stuff like, oh, you're interested in person X. They've appeared on this show where they're talking about them. And I guess I never really thought about it, but my experience is almost entirely like, I don't care at all about the people who are talking to the person. In fact, most of the time it's like they're an obstacle to hearing like the person that I want to hear discuss something. And yeah, I've never ever subscribed to any of those kinds of things. It's just like, oh, YouTube is recommending videos where I've been making the rounds on podcast shows or whatever. So it's like, oh, I want to hear the guest talk about things. But that absolutely never helps those channels, at least from my perspective, to subscribe because and I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
But I guess from YouTube's perspective, that fits into what they would be thinking of with this very top line here of like popular episodes. It is going to be very, again, more on the video side of it, more like the content side, not the long experience with the hosts side.
So then does it push podcasts to be like, you'll never guess what?
That's where I'm kind of going with this, is because even when you mentioned like, oh, it's more like vlogs on YouTube, I feel like the golden age of vlogging has totally passed. It's partly because vlogs slowly mutated into this same kind of format. oh, you can't really count on people just to show up each week to see what a person's up to, even if that person is quite interesting. Vlogs kind of mutated more in the direction of stunts and yeah, and it's like I'm actually trying to think.
And just excess.
Yeah, excess. Excess is a really good way to put it.
It's excess of everything.
Excess of everything. An excess of energy from the person who the vlog is about. An excess in like just horrific lifestyles. Like an excess in what they're up to. We're skydiving out of an airplane onto another airplane today. It's like, yeah, that's what everybody does for their weekend. So yeah, I guess, and I think YouTube just totally caused that. People realizing, again, because the subscribers are not really yours, you cannot hold on to a regular audience, even if those people are interested in your vlog. You just won't see that it exists. And it pushed all of them into more Mr. Beast end of the spectrum. And so yeah, I guess inevitable. What I should have realized at the very start of this is that YouTube, if it gets into podcasts, will push podcasts into being more like the most viral YouTube videos, which is not really at all what I want to get out of a podcast.
This episode of Cortex is brought to you by Wealthfront. There's so much going on with the economy right now. Are we in a recession? Is it a bear market? What's going on with inflation? Well, I can't tell you the future, but I can tell you about a great place to earn more on your savings, and that's Wealthfront. Wealthfront is an app that helps you save and invest your money. And right now, you can earn 2% APY with the Wealthfront cash account. That's 20 times more interest than if you left your money in a savings account at the average bank, according to FDIC.gov. Getting a cash account is easy. It takes just a few minutes to sign up, and then you'll immediately start earning 2% interest in your savings. And you know how much I'm a big fan of great design. It's something that I look for in the apps that I use. Wealthfront is a really nicely designed interface that's refreshingly streamlined, not cumbersome. And when you open an account today, you'll get an extra $50 bonus with a deposit of $500 or more. There are already maybe 500,000 people using Wealthfront to save more, earn more, and build long-term wealth. So why wait? Earn 2% on your cash today. Visit wealthfront.com/cortex to get started. That's wealthfront.com/cortex. This high-interest good news has been a paid endorsement from Wealthfront. And thanks to Wealthfront for their support of this show and Relay FM.
How much of this AI have you seen?
Interesting.
Yeah? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I know what DALL-E is. There's a bunch of them. DALL-E, I think, started this, right, into culture.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other things came about. I don't know whether they came or whatever. Like, I know that AI art exists. I know that the way you generate it is by just giving a string of text to one of these AI programs, and it will spit something out for you. Like, I've seen YouTube videos about it. I have friends that have participated in doing some searches. I have honestly don't care for me, right? Like, I know that people are like, this is fun, I'm gonna see what comes out when I put this text in. Like, for me, I have zero interest in it right now. And I have like negative interest in it for some stuff that probably we're going to touch on if we're going to talk about this.
Ooh, negative interest.
Yeah.
Wait, negative thoughts or negative interest as in it's below boring? It's, wait, like...
I think it's interesting, right? Like, I don't think this is boring. I think that this is a really fascinating technology thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, and let me explain to the listeners from this. Because is it one of these, I've been kind of asking people about this, and it's very interesting to see a varied response where some people are very like, OMG, I can't believe what's happening about this, and other people are like, I've never heard of this before.
Right.
The first thing where it really came across my radar is, I don't know if you've seen, there's a Twitter thread here, which is the first example that caught my attention of AI generated art. And it's from this program called DALL-E.
Yeah.
And yes, the idea with DALL-E is you give the computer a sentence, and it tries to generate Dolly in particular is like generating artwork, but it's generating an image to match the sentence.
Dali is apparently the best of these. Like, there's a bunch around. Dali seems to be the one that is the most advanced, and it's also closed. Like, not everyone can use it, but people get invitations, and then like a limited amount of like questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff is incredibly
Is that all I need?
intensive.
That's if they go
It's
there.
very expensive to run. You cannot run it very well on just normal computers. You need like these
I put that there.
machines to actually do this stuff. But
Okay, it does create
particular thread
technical
caught my
one way.
eye because
This thread is incredible.
someone came
That's
up with the
if
idea,
I.
hey,
Oh,
I'm gonna
that's
totally
oh.
ask Dolly to make images of Kermit the Frog in various style movies. You need a prompt. This is the sentence. So the prompt is a still of Kermit the Frog in Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
And so then you get an image, which is supposed to match it. And I have to say,
That's what they should plan. If they're there, I don't think they can put a line up there. Maybe there is.
look like.
I saw one person playing here.
Realistic, it captures the style of that.
But I
and
technically maybe, but
And so it goes, a still of Kermit the Frog in The Matrix. And so here's what Kermit would look like if he was in The Matrix. The one that really caught my attention was a still of Kermit the Frog in Spirited Away.
It just looks like it's in the movie.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
the Spirited Away one was the most shocking because like Miyazaki has a real distinctive art style, and it just absolutely nails it. Of this is how Kermit the Frog would look like if he was in a Miyazaki movie.
Right, but here's the problem, right? How?
oh, with that.
Get to that later.
No, it looked perfect.
Don't think about it too hard. I just think the thing to establish here is that it is possible. And if you're listening to the show and you have never heard of this stuff before, like go look at this link in the description to see. It looks much better than however you're imagining it would be.
Yeah, it's legit. Like, it's honestly, you could show me this and tell me somebody made a puppet and put it in, and I would believe you. Like, I would believe that it is real in many of these, or that somebody sat down and drew this. Like, I would believe you.
Yeah, you wouldn't look at it and think, oh, that was obviously a computer-generated image.
Absolutely not. For like 75% of these look perfect.
And in particular, the kind of weird photorealistic ones are interesting. Like there's a still of Kermit the Frog in Total Recall, which doesn't look like an animation. It really looks like, oh, someone made a model and then photographed.
Or the Twin Peaks one. It's way down there.
Yeah. So here's the other thing is about this that I think is interesting to realize immediately is since this is a computer and you can just type in sentences, you can generate hundreds of these very quickly. In the time like it would take an actual artist to make this stuff, you're looking at like, oh, this is thousands of human hours compressed down to a person's interesting afternoon. So which is the one that you want to do? I can't even.
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Okay, got BoJack Horseman, Borderlands.
It's above that one.
Eraser. The Eraserhead one is also really good.
Yeah. Twin
the
Peaks
black and
is
white-
above
the
the
Twin Peak
Eraserhead.
ones. Right. Okay. There we go. Yeah.
It just looks like a vinyl puppet.
Yeah. It looks like a vinyl puppet. These things are really quite good. This is the first one that caught my attention, and so I think you're totally right. In the timeline of how is this stuff going, Dolly is the first one that started getting people's attention, and I think it's very easy to think like Dolly is the best one. But I've been following this more closely, and what is really quite amazing is how fast this area is improving. That Twitter thread is from several months ago, and I'm going to send you one which is a bit more recent. This is a Twitter thread that's comparing some of the different programs that are coming along. And so Dolly, like you said, is a closed project. You can't get public access to it. There's a group that's making another version of this, which is called Stable Diffusion. And this is like a publicly available, open source version of the same thing. And the amount of improvement that this one is making is absolutely freaking breathtaking of how good stable diffusion is. And the thing with stable diffusion is, unlike Dolly, which is sort of explicitly trying to be like art, stable diffusion is just trying to make images. So it's not necessarily trying to be like, oh, this is what the Mona Lisa would look like if Picasso painted it.
I don't understand the distinction.
So I think the distinction
I'm done.